The storm howled over the stone walls of the Lichen King's castle. Lightning cut through the black sky, illuminating the banners of silver wolves that flapped violently in the wind. Inside, the great hall was crowded with nobles, courtiers, and servants. The air was thick with anticipation and fear. Today was the day of the wedding between King Kaelin and Alara. A woman whose blood carried ancient magic whispered about in hushed tones. Some called her cursed, others blessed. But no one truly knew. Alara stood at the end of the aisle, her dark cloak flowing behind her. She did not tremble, though her heart raced with a mix of hope and dread. Her eyes, bright and steady, scanned the hall. Kaelin sat on his throne, his tall frame draped in black and silver robes, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim candlelight. Whispers traveled quickly through the crowd. Everyone waited to see if the king would honor the ceremony or betray it. The doors closed with a heavy thud, signaling the start of the ritual. The priest began to speak, invoking the old blessings of the land, the wolves and the stars. Alara took a step forward, her hand brushing the hilt of the ceremonial dagger at her side, not to fight, but to remind herself of her strength. When the moment came for Kaelin to speak his vow, silence fell. All eyes were on him. His face, handsome yet stern, betrayed nothing at first. Then he rose, his voice cutting through the hall like ice. "I cannot marry you," he said, his words echoing against the stone walls. "The omens are against us. Your presence. It carries a shadow that I cannot accept." A collective gasp filled the hall. Alara's heart sank, though she forced her face into calm composure. She had expected doubt, suspicion, even fear, but not outright rejection. Not on the day they were meant to be joined. "You mistake caution for mercy," she said softly, her voice steady, but carrying an edge of pain. "I am no curse to you. I have chosen this path willingly." Kellen's eyes glimmered with an unreadable emotion. For a moment it seemed he might speak again. But instead, he turned his gaze to the crowd and raised his hand in a gesture that dismissed her entirely. The priest faltered, unsure how to proceed, and the nobles whispered urgently among themselves. Alara did not speak again. She knew arguing would only bring humiliation and anger, and she would not give him the satisfaction. Later that night, when the storm reached its peak, she vanished. No one saw her leave. No one could trace her steps. All that remained in the hall was the faint scent of her cloak and the memory of her defiance. Outside the castle, the forest waited. Dark and endless, it was a place where ancient magic still breathed. Alara carried with her a secret far more precious than herself, 2 tiny crying infants swaddled in blankets. They were Kellen's children, born in secret months before the wedding. Only she knew of their existence. Only she could protect them. The forest seemed to recognize her presence, the trees parting slightly as if to guide her. She moved quickly, yet silently, until she reached a hidden glade guarded by silver-leaved trees and sparkling streams. This place, older than the kingdom itself, would be their refuge. Here, the twins Leora and Caius would grow away from the eyes of the court, away from Kellen's wrath and the whispers of the nobles. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Alara built a small life in the forest. She found ways to grow food, to protect the children from wild animals, and to keep their existence secret from the world. The forest itself seemed to aid her, lending her subtle magic she did not fully understand. She taught the twins to recognize the signs of nature, to move silently, and to trust their instincts. Though they were young, their eyes already held the spark of something extraordinary, something inherited from their father's bloodline and her own. Back in the castle, Kellen's life took a darker turn. The rejection he had imposed on Alara haunted him. Each night he felt her absence like a weight pressing against his chest. He tried to command his mind, to focus on the duties of a king. But visions of her the way she had stood so proud, so calm under his scorn, haunted him. He could not understand why he had done it, why fear and doubt had overtaken the desire he once felt. His counselors noticed the change. The king's decisions grew harsher, his temper shorter. The kingdom, already weary from the long war his predecessors had fought, trembled under the shadow of his uncertainty. Some began to whisper about the possibility of rebellion. Yet Kalen, blinded by his own regret, thought only of Alara and the life he had torn away from himself. Meanwhile, in the hidden glade, Alara's nights were not peaceful either. Though she was safe, she felt the pull of the castle, of Kellen's presence in her life. She did not trust herself to return, not yet, and not with the twins so young. Still, she studied the stars and the movements of the moon, hoping for a sign that one day, perhaps, Kalen might understand her choice and seek redemption. The twins began to speak in small words, their laughter echoing through the forest like bells. Alara marveled at their resilience, at the tiny sparks of their power. Leora, the elder by minutes, showed an unusual ability to sense emotions. Caius, more restless, could hear whispers carried on the wind. They were extraordinary, but their magic was fragile, and Alara knew it must be nurtured carefully. One night, as the twins slept, Alara sat beside the fire and traced her fingers through the dirt. Drawing symbols taught to her by her mother long ago, she whispered promises of protection and hope. Calling upon the old magic to guard the children, she did not hear the soft rustling of leaves at first. But then a shadow moved near the edge of the glade. She froze, instinct sharpening every sense. Her hand went to the hilt of her dagger, though she had little need for it against ordinary beasts. Then she saw him. Kalen stood at the border of the trees, his dark figure silhouetted against the silver light of the moon. His golden eyes shone brighter than she remembered, full of emotion, regret, longing, something deeper that frightened her. "Alara," he said, his voice low, almost trembling. Her heart pounded. She could not let herself rush forward, could not let the twins see him, not yet. She took a step back, raising her dagger, not as a threat, but as a warning. "Stay back," she said. "You have no claim here. You do not know what has been lost or what you might destroy." Kellen's face twisted with pain. I know I was wrong. I know I cast you away when I should have trusted my heart. I have hunted for you, though I did not know how to find you. I am sorry, Alara." She felt the truth in his words, yet fear and caution bound her. This was the man who had rejected her, the man who had shattered her world and forced her into hiding. Could she trust him again? Could the children even know their father and not see him as a threat? Before she could respond, the wind shifted, carrying whispers that made her blood run cold. They were not ordinary forest sounds. Someone or something was approaching, drawn by the same power that protected the twins. Alara knew in that moment that danger was near, and that Kellen's arrival might not be enough to save them. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, they shared something beyond words, a recognition of loss, a shared pain, and a bond that neither distance nor anger could sever. But as the shadows lengthened, and the unknown presence drew closer, Alara realized that the night would not be quiet. The twins stirred, sensing something in the air. She knew that the forest's magic alone might not protect them. Kalen took a cautious step forward, his voice firm. "I will protect them. I will protect you. Whatever comes, I will not fail again." Alara's hand tightened on her dagger, her eyes scanning the trees. The wind whispered threats and warnings, but also hope. The storm that had begun at their wedding day had not yet ended. It only moved to the forest. And now their fates were intertwined once more. And in that moment, under the silver moon and the ancient trees, the first threads of a long and dangerous reunion began to weave. The shadows moved closer. Something waited just beyond the glade. And the Lichen King, once their enemy, now stood at the edge of their lives, his remorse and determination shining through the darkness. Alara whispered to the sleeping twins, "Stay close. Nothing can break us. Not tonight." The wind howled. The storm was far from over. The forest seemed alive with whispers. Every leaf, every rustle of the branches carried a warning. Alara tightened her cloak around her shoulders, her eyes scanning the shadows. Kalen stayed close, his presence both comforting and unnerving. She did not yet trust him fully, and yet a part of her longed for the strength. She remembered in him the strength that had once captivated her. The twins stirred in their sleep, sensing the tension in the air. Leora muttered softly, and Caius clutched at the blanket that covered them, as if responding to some invisible alarm. Ilara knelt and placed her hands on their small shoulders. "Stay quiet. Stay still. Nothing will touch you if you do as I say." Kalen watched her. "I should have been here years ago," he said quietly, his voice low but steady. "I should have known, should have seen." "Failed you both." Ilara did not respond. Words alone could not undo the years of separation, the pain of rejection, the long nights she had spent alone in the forest raising the twins. But she felt the weight of his presence, the truth behind his remorse. For the first time, she sensed that he might not just be remorseful, he might be changed. A sudden movement caught her eye. A dark figure emerged from the trees, silent and purposeful. The sorcerer who had once been an advisor in Kellen's court stepped forward, his eyes glinting with malice. He had learned of the twins' existence and intended to use their magic for his own gain. "You have hidden them well, Lara," he said, his voice smooth and dangerous. "But no place is safe from me." Kalen stepped in front of her and the twins. His hands glowed faintly with the silver energy of his lichen heritage. "You will not take them," he growled. The forest seemed to lean in closer, responding to the tension between the two men. Ilara's heart raced. She had prepared for threats from the outside world. But never had she imagined facing Kellen's enemies while he stood before her. A strange, fragile alliance formed in that moment. Their goals aligned. The twins must be protected at all costs. The sorcerer raised his staff, and a dark mist began to spread along the ground. The twins stirred, their eyes opening wide. Leora reached for Ilara instinctively, but something inside her shifted. She raised her small hands, and the wind in the forest answered. Leaves swirled around her, forming a protective barrier around the three of them. Caius mirrored her action, the air around him vibrating with unseen energy. Ilara gasped. She had not expected their powers to awaken so soon. The twins' magic was raw, untrained, but stronger than she had ever imagined. Kellen's eyes widened as he saw the proof of his children's potential. For the first time, he realized the full weight of what had been hidden from him. "You are strong," he said to the twins, his voice carrying both awe and pride. "Stronger than I ever imagined." The sorcerer sneered. "Impressive," he said, "but children cannot stop a master." He stepped forward, dark energy pulsing from his staff. The forest seemed to respond, bending the shadows in his favor. Kellen's growl rose, and his transformation began. His human form stretched, bones lengthened, fur sprouting along his arms and back. His golden eyes glowed brighter, and his fangs gleamed in the moonlight. Ilara stepped back, holding the twins close, but she did not fear him. She knew that Kellen's strength, combined with the twins' magic, could turn the tide. The battle began. Dark energy clashed with wind and light echoing through the forest. The sorcerer attacked with precision, seeking to strike fear into Kalen and Ilara. But every strike was met with a counter of strength and magic. Leora and Caius moved instinctively, their small hands creating shields of wind and light that deflected attacks. Ilara guided them, whispering instructions while maintaining her own defenses. Together, always together. Protect each other. The twins followed her lead, forming a circle of protection around the fire where she had built their small refuge. Kellen's roar shook the ground. He lunged at the sorcerer, forcing him back. But the dark man was skilled, and his attacks came in waves. Each one designed to test the limits of Kellen's strength and the twins' magic. "You have lived too long in hiding," the sorcerer taunted. "You cannot fight destiny." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Destiny is not written by the weak. We choose our path." Her voice carried more power than she realized, and the words seemed to echo through the forest. Even the sorcerer faltered, a flicker of doubt passing across his face. The twins sensed it. Their magic surged, intertwining in ways they did not yet understand. The forest itself seemed to respond, trees bending slightly, streams flowing with increased speed, the wind carrying whispers of ancient guardians. For a moment, the sorcerer's power wavered. Kalen seized the opportunity. He struck with the full force of his lichen strength, knocking the sorcerer to the ground. But the dark man was not defeated. With a cry, he unleashed a wave of energy that surged toward the twins. Ilara reacted instantly, throwing herself over them, shielding them with her body. Kellen's eyes burned with fury and panic. "No," he bellowed, and the forest seemed to answer. Roots and vines erupted from the ground, wrapping around the sorcerer and holding him in place. The twins, sensing the danger had passed, peeked from behind Ilara, their small faces filled with awe and fear. The sorcerer struggled, his eyes wide with disbelief. "This is impossible," he shouted. "Children cannot possess such power." "They are not just children," Kalen growled, stepping closer, his massive form towering over the dark man. "They are heirs. They are my blood, and no harm will come to them while I live." The sorcerer's staff shattered, the dark mist dispersing into the night. Defeated but not destroyed, he vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only a warning. "This is not over. The curse is not broken. You cannot hide forever." Lara exhaled slowly, her hands trembling as she held the twins close. "It is not safe here," she whispered. "We need to move, and we need to be careful. He will return." Kalan, returning to his human form, knelt beside them. His golden eyes softened as he looked at the twins. "I failed you once," he said quietly. "I will not fail again. I will protect you. I will protect her. I swear it." Ilara studied him, trying to measure the truth in his words. She could see the remorse, the desire to change, and the strength that had always drawn her to him. But trust was fragile, and the years of separation had left deep marks. "Actions matter more than words," she said softly. "If you truly mean this, you will prove it not just to me, but to them." Kalen nodded solemnly. "I will," he promised. "And I will begin tonight." The night air was still for a moment, filled with the sound of leaves rustling and the distant call of nocturnal creatures. The forest seemed to calm, but Ilara knew the peace would be temporary. The sorcerer's threat lingered, and there were other dangers in the world, those who would exploit the twins' power. Those who would see Kalen fall once more. The twins, sensing the tension, snuggled closer to Ilara. Leora's small hand brushed against Kellen's, and he felt a strange warmth, a connection that went beyond blood. Caius, curious and fearless, reached for Kellen's cloak, tugging it gently. The king's heart softened, a mix of awe and protectiveness filling him. Ilara stood, holding the twins carefully. "We cannot stay here. The forest will not hide us forever. We must find a stronger sanctuary, somewhere even he cannot reach." Kalen rose as well, his eyes scanning the darkened trees. "Then we leave at first light," he said. "Together. We will find a place where you and the twins are safe, and I will stand by you, no matter what comes." Ilara nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She did not fully trust him yet, but for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Kalen could be the father the twins deserved, and, perhaps, even the man she once believed he could be. The fire crackled as the storm's remnants faded into the night. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying warnings and promises alike. Somewhere in the distance, the sorcerer watched, plotting his next move. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Ilara tucked the twins close once more, her gaze meeting Kellen's. "We survived tonight," she said. "But tomorrow will bring more challenges. Are you ready for them?" Kellen's jaw tightened, his golden eyes shining with resolve. "I am ready. For them, for you, and for us." And as the first light of dawn began to peek through the trees, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The Lichen King, the woman he had once rejected, and the heirs hidden for years were now bound together by fate blood, and a promise to face the darkness that waited just beyond the glade. The shadows of the forest shifted. Somewhere in the distance, a faint whisper carried on the wind. Danger was coming, but so was the reckoning, and none of them would ever be the same. The forest felt alive in the early morning, yet the quiet was deceptive. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a branch, seemed louder than it should have been. Ilara led the way, holding Leora and Caius close. Kalen followed, alert, his senses stretching far beyond the ordinary, picking up every shift in the forest's energy. The storm had passed, but the air still carried tension, heavy with the promise of danger. The sorcerer's words from the night before echoed in Ilara's mind. You cannot hide forever. She had hoped that retreating deeper into the forest would buy them time. But now she realized that time was not something she could afford. The twins were beginning to awaken to the full scope of their magic. Leora could sense emotions and intentions in others, her small hands sometimes raising unseen barriers when she felt threatened. Caius, bold and restless, had begun to manipulate air currents, making small leaves lift and whirl in playful patterns. It was exhilarating and terrifying for Ilara. Their powers were raw, uncontrolled, but undeniably strong. Kalen glanced at the twins, a mix of pride and awe in his eyes. They are extraordinary, he murmured, almost to himself. I never imagined. His voice trailed off, and he looked toward Ilara. All these years, I was blind, and I let fear rule me. Ilara's eyes softened slightly, but she did not speak. Words could not undo the past. She had raised the twins alone, guided them through the forest's dangers, and hidden them from a father who had turned away. It had been necessary. Survival demanded it. And yet she could not deny the pull she felt toward Callan, the same pull that had stirred in her heart years ago, for betrayal and fear had torn them apart. The forest began to shift. Trees seemed to lean closer, shadows stretching unnaturally as though something unseen was approaching. The twins stirred, sensing the disturbance. Leora clutched Ilara's cloak, whispering, Something is coming. Caius, however, looked toward the shadows with curiosity rather than fear. His small hands already lifting leaves in preparation, Kalen growled low in his throat, the lichen side of him sensing danger before the human mind could. Get ready, he warned, his eyes scanning the edges of the glade. It is not over. The sorcerer may have retreated, but he will return, and he is not alone. A rustle in the trees confirmed his suspicion. Figures emerged from the darkness, creatures twisted by magic, followers of the sorcerer. They moved silently, their intentions clear. The forest itself seemed to recoil at their presence. The air heavy with tension and the faint scent of decay, Ilara drew herself up, standing in front of the twins. Stay behind me, she said firmly. Do not move unless I tell you. The twins nodded, their young faces pale but determined. Leora's hands trembled slightly as she tried to focus her power, while Caius's eyes shone with excitement. Kalen stepped forward, shifting his form into his lichen shape. His muscles tensed, fur bristling, eyes glowing gold. Do not touch them, he warned. His voice carried through the glade, powerful and commanding. The first of the creatures lunged. They were grotesque. Shadows twisted into humanoid shapes, moving with unnatural speed. Kalen met them head-on, striking with strength and precision that shook the forest floor. Ilara called upon her own latent magic, creating protective wards that shimmered with silver light around the twins. Leora and Caius reacted instinctively, small bursts of wind and energy joining the barriers, though they did not yet understand how to control them fully. The creatures faltered against the combined defense. Kalen roared, lunging forward to strike the closest one, tearing through the shadowy figure with a swipe of his claws. The forest seemed to respond to his strength, roots rising from the ground to bind the remaining creatures. Ilara's voice rang out, steady and commanding. Focus. Keep the circle tight. The twins concentrated, their powers growing stronger with every second. Leora's hands glowed with a soft silver light, sensing the intentions of the remaining creatures. Caius stirred the wind with increasing control, spinning leaves into small projectiles that disrupted the attackers. Despite their inexperience, the twins fought alongside their mother and father in an unspoken unity. Kellen's heart swelled with a mix of awe and fear. He had spent years blind to their existence, and now here they were, standing together, defending themselves with magic and courage he had only dreamed of. The creatures began to retreat, their dark forms dissolving into the shadows. The forest settled, but the calm was fleeting. Kalen knew the sorcerer would not give up so easily. He would return stronger and more cunning, testing not just their strength, but the bonds that had begun to form between them. Kalen returned to his human form, breathing heavily. He looked at the twins, then at Alara. "They are powerful," he said, voice tinged with both pride and concern. "More than I imagined. But this is only the beginning. They must learn control, or the world will see them as threats rather than heirs." Alara nodded, exhaustion softening her features. "I have kept them safe this long," she said quietly. "But we cannot hide forever. You know that as well as I do. The sorcerer will not rest, and neither will others who fear or desire their power." Kellen's expression darkened. "I should have been here. I should have taught them, guided them, but I was too blind, too wrapped in my own fears. I have failed you both." Lara stepped closer, her gaze steady. "You cannot change the past," she said, "but you can protect the future. That is what matters now. If you truly mean it, prove it. Not with words, but with your actions." Kellen's jaw tightened. "Then I will." He looked at the twins, who were still wide-eyed from the encounter. "You are not alone anymore. I will fight for you no matter what comes. Together, we will survive this darkness." The twins looked at him, sensing both truth and strength in his words. Leora's hands glowed faintly, reacting to the sincerity she felt emanating from him. Caius lifted a small gust of wind, as if testing the bond that was forming. Kalen knelt to meet their gaze. "We are a family," he said simply, "and we will face whatever comes. Together." For a moment there was peace. The forest seemed to exhale, the wind carrying away the remnants of the shadows. The storm that had begun on the day of their wedding seemed distant now, yet Kalen knew it was not truly gone. Darkness always lingered, waiting for a moment of weakness. Alara looked at him, her heart conflicted. She wanted to trust him, to believe in the bond they were forming, but caution stayed her words. She had seen the cost of blind faith. Yet the sight of Kalen standing beside her, not as a king demanding obedience, but as a protector willing to risk everything, stirred feelings she had thought buried. The twins, sensing her hesitation, leaned against her. Leora whispered, "Father, is he really our father?" Caius, ever bold, asked aloud, "Will he protect us, like you do, Mother?" Alara looked at Kalen. "He can," she said softly, her voice carrying both warning and hope. "But he must prove it. Not just to us, but to them, to you." She gestured toward the twins, who watched intently. Kellen's expression softened. "Then I will prove it," he said. "I will not fail again. I swear it." The air in the forest grew colder, a subtle shift that made Alara shiver. Something watched them from the shadows, a presence older and more powerful than the sorcerer. It had been silent until now, biding its time. Now it made itself known in whispers that carried through the trees. Kalen noticed it immediately. His senses flared, the hair on his arms bristling. "We are not alone," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "And this is bigger than we imagined." Lara's grip on the twins tightened. "Then we must be ready. Whatever comes, we face it together." The shadows at the edge of the glade moved, almost like smoke, shaping themselves into forms that seemed both familiar and unnatural. The twins instinctively reacted, their powers flaring in response. Leora's silver light shone brighter, and Kaya stirred a wind that carried leaves like tiny shields. Kalen stood between Alara and the twins, growling low. "No harm will come to them," he vowed. "Not while I live. I will not repeat the mistakes of the past." The shadows paused, then began to recede, leaving behind only a sense of threat that lingered like a heavy fog. The warning was clear. The sorcerer would return. And this time he would not come alone. Alara looked at Kalen, then at the twins. "We cannot stay in one place. The forest may protect us for now, but soon it will be enough. We must find a sanctuary, somewhere strong, somewhere they cannot reach." Len nodded. "We leave at first light, together, and we prepare. We train the twins, strengthen our defenses, and face whatever comes." As the sun began to rise, casting pale gold light through the trees, a fragile sense of unity formed between them. The storm of the past years had not ended, but for the first time, they were no longer separate. They were bound by blood, by magic, and by the promise to face the darkness together. And somewhere beyond the edge of the forest, the sorcerer watched. His eyes filled with malice and calculation. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The dawn broke over the forest, spilling gold and silver across the leaves. Birds called timidly from the treetops, and a faint mist clung to the undergrowth. Alara moved carefully, the twins walking close beside her. Leora's hand brushed her mother's arm, and Caius flitted ahead, curiosity sparkling in his eyes. They were strong now, but not yet ready for the final trial that awaited them. Kalen walked beside them, his expression focused, his golden eyes scanning every shadow. The events of the past days had forced him to confront himself in ways he had never imagined. The rejection of Alara, his absence from the twins' lives, the attacks by the sorcerer of it weighed heavily upon him. But he had learned something important. Strength alone could not protect those he loved. Courage, trust, and unity were equally vital. They reached a small clearing where the ground seemed to hum with ancient power. Alara had sensed it days before and knew this would be the best place to train the twins and prepare for what was coming. She knelt to speak with them. "Leora Caius," she said gently, "you are strong, but you must learn control. The forest protects you now, but outside not everyone will. You must listen to your father, to me, and to each other. Together, you are unstoppable." The twins nodded, their eyes bright with determination. Leora raised her hands, and the wind stirred at her command. Leaves and small branches danced gracefully around her. Caius laughed, sending the wind in playful gusts, stirring ripples across the nearby stream. Kalen watched with pride, a faint smile breaking his usually serious expression. "You both have their blood," he said softly, glancing at the twins, "and their magic. But you also have their mother's wisdom. Never forget that strength without guidance can lead to harm." Before training could continue, a sudden chill swept through the clearing. The trees shivered, and shadows twisted unnaturally. Kalen tensed immediately. The sorcerer had returned, but he was not alone. Figures emerged from the mist's warriors, bound to the sorcerer, twisted by magic. Moving with unnatural precision, "Ilara, the twins," Kalen said sharply. "Take them and hide. Now." Ilara nodded, gathering the children in her arms. "We will not hide forever," she whispered. "But for now, you must protect them." Kalen stepped forward, his lichen form stretching and growing, fur bristling, muscles coiling with anticipation. His golden eyes glowed fiercely, reflecting both determination and pain. The creatures advanced, and Kalen met them without hesitation. His claws tearing through shadows, his roars shaking the forest. Ilara and the twins retreated to a small hidden grove. Protected by a circle of silver light Ilara conjured. Leora's hands glowed faintly as she sensed the emotions of the attackers, warning her of every movement. Caius's wind stirred in response, creating small shields around their circle. Through the trees, Kellen's battle raged. The sorcerer unleashed wave after wave of dark energy, testing the Lichen King's limits. Kellen's heart pounded not just from the fight, but from the knowledge that the twins' lives rested on his strength. Every strike, every dodge, every roar carried the weight of his past mistakes. And then came the moment Kalen had feared for years. A pulse of cursed energy struck him, hitting deep within his lichen heart. Pain shot through him, and he staggered, faltering under the pressure. Shadows swirled around him, threatening to consume him entirely. "Ilara?" he called, his voice strained. "The twins. Protect them." Ilara stepped forward, her voice strong and unwavering. "You are not alone, Kalen. We are here." Leora and Caius joined her, their powers weaving into a protective aura. The circle of light around them pulsed and expanded. Reaching toward Kalen, the twins' combined power touched him. And Kalen felt something he had never known, a connection stronger than his curse, stronger than the shadows themselves. The bond of family, the unity of love and trust, surged through him. Burning away the pain and weakening the sorcerer's hold, Kalen roared, and his strength returned brighter and fiercer than before. With a single, powerful leap, he struck the sorcerer, knocking him to the ground. The dark man struggled, but the combined magic of Alara and the twins created a barrier he could not penetrate. The shadows dissipated, and the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Sel returned to his human form, panting, his golden eyes softening as he saw Alara and the twins. "Are you both safe?" he asked, voice thick with concern. Alara smiled, though exhaustion marked her face. "Together, we are stronger than anything he can throw at us." Kalen approached, kneeling so he was level with the twins. Leora and Caius looked up at him, their small faces reflecting awe and relief. "You fought bravely," he said softly. "But it was your courage, your magic, that saved us all. You are extraordinary." The twins smiled shyly, Leora reaching out to touch his hand. Caius mimicked her, and Kalen felt a warmth that he had never known before, the love and trust of his children. Finally, tangible, after years of absence, Alara stepped closer, her heart full but cautious. "Kalen," she said softly, "you have proven yourself. Not just as a warrior, but as a protector. You kept your promise?" Kalen looked at her, his golden eyes glowing with emotion. "I have been blind for too long," he admitted. "But I see now. I see you. I see them, and I will never turn away again. I will face my curse, my fears, and whatever darkness comes. With you." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the forest around them quiet but alive with lingering magic. The twins clung to both parents, sensing the bond that had formed. The air shimmered with warmth, contrast to the darkness that had threatened them. Alara felt tears prick her eyes, but she smiled. "The past is behind us," she said. "The future is ours to protect." Kalen reached for her hand, his touch gentle, careful. "Then let us protect it together," he said. "No more hiding, no more fear. We are a family." The twins giggled, running between their parents, their magic swirling in playful arcs of light and wind. The forest seemed to embrace them, leaves rustling softly, sunlight breaking through the canopy in golden streams. But even as peace settled over the clearing, Alara knew the world outside the forest remained dangerous. The sorcerer had been defeated for now, but the warning lingered in her mind. Darkness never truly sleeps, and Kellen's curse, though weakened by love and trust, would always require vigilance. Kalen knelt, gathering the twins close once more. "We have faced the darkness and survived," he said, "but this is only the beginning. Together, we will face whatever comes, and we will not fail again." Lar nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We will not fail," she agreed. "We have each other. And that is stronger than any curse, any magic, any shadow that waits." The twins looked up at them, eyes wide and full of wonder. Leora whispered, "We are a family now." Caius nodded, wind playfully stirring his hair. "And nothing can stop us." Kalen smiled, a rare, soft smile that reached his eyes. "Then let us begin anew," he said. "Not as a king and a queen separated by fear, but as a family bound by choice, by love, and by the courage to face the darkness together." Alara felt a weight lift from her heart. The pain of rejection, the years of hiding, the loneliness, they were still a part of her, but now they were tempered by hope. She could see a future where the twins grew strong, where Kalen embraced his role as a father, and where they all could face the world without fear. The forest around them shimmered with light, the shadows of the past fading, leaving only the promise of tomorrow. And as the sun climbed higher, casting warmth across the glade, Alara, Kalen, and the twins stood together, family forged through trials, strengthened by love, and ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. Somewhere beyond the forest, the sorcerer's voice whispered through the wind, faint but persistent, "This is not over." Alara's gaze hardened. "Then we will be ready," she said. Kalen nodded, his hand tightening around hers, their unity unshakable. And in that moment, Beneath the ancient trees and the golden sunlight, the Lichen King, the woman he once rejected, and their extraordinary children began a new chapter, a story of courage, redemption, and love that would be told for generations. The shadows of the past may linger, but they no longer ruled. Together, they were unstoppable. Together, they were home.